On today's episode of Locked On Oilers, a marquee win for the Oilers over the Tampa Bay Lightning. How did they get there, and why is it so important? All that much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Oilers podcast. I'm your host and former Oilers game day producer Brett Holden. As mentioned on today's episode, we're going to start off with the massive win for the Edmonton Oilers, a 5-3 victory for the Edmonton Oilers over the Lightning. We'll talk about how they got there, and then also on today's episode, we're going to talk about how the Edmonton Oilers have gotten to a 5-game win streak, the metrics in that, and how the Edmonton Oilers can look to continue that role over the next, 13 games. Yes, we're going to go that deep into the schedule. And to wrap up today's episode, it's Friday, so we are going with the Beast of the Week. I think you know who this guy's going to be, basically backstopping the Oilers to this 5-game winning streak, and that all continued last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. All that much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers. Thank you for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcast. Alrighty, let's start off today, as mentioned, with the massive 5-3 win for the Oilers over the Tampa Bay Lightning. And yes, this is a marquee win because it has basically been an accumulation of all the things the Edmonton Oilers have done well over the last couple of games, and really has shown what the Edmonton Oilers can do against a top team in the NHL. Now, the last couple of wins for the Edmonton Oilers on that 5-game win streak have been against the Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken, who are currently sitting atop of the Pacific Division, but the 2 wins beforehand were Anaheim and San Jose. That does give a lot of people a reason to go, oh, it's a 4-game win streak, but look who you're playing. Fair enough. Every team has the same schedule. Every team has to play everybody, but you got to get those wins when you can. The Edmonton Oilers did that against Anaheim, San Jose, played a tough team in Seattle, played a tough team in Vegas, and then played one of the, honestly, a dynasty over the last 5 years in the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Edmonton Oilers went into Tampa and swept the season series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, 5-3 win for the Oilers as Connor McDavid gets his league-leading 39th goal in the game. But the thing that really stands out is, again, the depth scoring for the Oilers. Ryan McLeod getting a goal, Zach Hyman getting 2, and Vincent Desharnais getting another assist, his 3rd NHL assist in he has points in 2 straight games, his 3rd assist in the last 4 games. He has been absolutely tearing it up for the Edmonton Oilers, and it's been great to see. We'll talk about him a little later on, though, about his contributions to the game. But again, as mentioned, Zach Hyman getting 2 goals on the night, raising his total to 52 points. Yes, it's not a fair comparison, but Zach Hyman, 52 points. Austin Matthews, 51. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. No, that's just to boil the blood of some people out east. But speaking of boiling blood out east, how about the play of former Toronto Maple Leafs goaltender Jack Campbell? 28 saves on 31 shots last night, a save percentage of a .903. Another game over the 900 mark for Jack Campbell behind the Edmonton Oilers. And that's big. Now the Edmonton Oilers have 2 goaltenders who are playing fantastic hockey. In fact, they have 1 goaltender heading to the All-Star game. Congratulations to Stuart Skinner on that. But also in that game, let's stay on track with the Oilers game last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, I mentioned that last night was kind of an accumulation of all the things that the Edmonton Oilers had been going into this, I guess. And I say that because Klim Kostin and Darnell Nurse dropped the gloves in that game. Maybe you get a fight here or there every once in a while. The Edmonton Oilers have been getting fights and grit from all over the place and not letting teams run over them. The Edmonton Oilers, yes, they lost 6-3 to the Los Angeles Kings earlier on this trip, or on the trip, I should say. But in that game, the Edmonton Oilers fought their way out of it, literally up until the last second of the game, where Klim Kostin fought Brendan Lemieux in the last seconds of the game. In a game that was out of hand. In a game where Klim Kostin said, we're not leaving Staples Center with our tails tucked between our legs. We're fighting our way out of here. Against a good team in Los Angeles. But then the Edmonton Oilers did it again against Tampa. The Edmonton Oilers were up 2-0 and 3-1 in this game. Ended up blowing that 3-1 lead and ended up tied at 3. The Edmonton Oilers didn't give up, and I saw some takes on the internet which was just atrocious, of people going, oh, well, yeah, you can talk about the fights, but really, I think the fights hindered the Edmonton Oilers. Shut up. Shut up. Now the Edmonton Oilers are getting grit and protecting Connor McDavid, and you sit there and go, oh, well, actually, I don't like it. Shut up. Because earlier on in the year, when Alex Edler knees Connor McDavid and Darnell Nurse, I'm just going to go through all the Oilers until I get to the player. Once Darnell Nurse starts trying to drop the gloves, everybody goes, oh, now there's no one defending Connor McDavid. You can't have a serious team without having somebody defending Connor McDavid. And then now, you get somebody defending Connor McDavid and you go, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the best idea. Shut up. You don't get both sides. And now the Edmonton Oilers have a guy in Klim Kostin who will drop the gloves, protect Connor McDavid, and Darnell Nurse, a leader in that locker room, who's going out there fighting a guy who has given the Edmonton Oilers fits for years in Corey Perry. And they stood their own. I mean, you love to see it. Got the Oilers crowd into it. And if you've seen Oilers games, sometimes it's difficult to get the crowd into it. But once the Edmonton Oilers crowd gets going, it's tough to get them out of the game. And the Edmonton Oilers did that with a couple of fights, with some difficult game management, I guess. But now I'm sure you are also expecting me to go off on the officiating. What I will say is I think the officials lost the game. They lost control of the game. They were no longer policing that game. It was the Edmonton Oilers and the Tampa Bay Lightning policing that game. They go into that review, and I was having a good conversation with my colleague today about this incident. And like he said, you go into this review to see if there's a major, and really what you're doing is trying to cool down the game. You're cooling it down. Hey, maybe there's a major here. We're going to take a look. But instead, what do? You come out of there with a penalty to Evander Kane? Not even a major either. They called it a minor. I'm sorry? How does that make sense? That is where the issues start to become, because again, you're there to police the game and make sure things don't get out of hand. And once they do get out of hand, you need to make sure that you rein it in. And the referees were unable to do so. That's where I'll leave it there. It is what it is. But I do want to wrap up the conversation from last night's game with Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard. As Evan Bouchard and Philip Broberg, as we saw at the end of the game, also had quite the game in general. But here's some interesting numbers for Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard last night. At 5-on-5, the Edmonton Oilers outshot the Tampa Bay Lightning 18-2 when Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard were out on the ice. They had a 92% expected goals for the Edmonton Oilers when they were out there together. And zero high danger chances against when Philip Broberg and Evan Bouchard were on the ice. We are seeing development in front of our eyes, which is fantastic because for a long time, as you know, I've been a very hard critic on Evan Bouchard. And he has been, I am very gladly to say, proving me wrong. And Philip Broberg is coming into his own as an NHLer. Right in front of our eyes. Fantastic to see for the Edmonton Oilers, especially considering they were having some major defensive problems only a couple of weeks ago. From last night, the Edmonton Oilers improved to 26-18-3 on the season, and they look to improve on that record as they head to Vancouver tomorrow, Saturday night, as the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks face off in Hockey Day in Canada. Yes, it's Hockey Day in Canada tomorrow, but they are the marquee matchup. The 8 o'clock puck drop tomorrow night between the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks at Rogers Arena in Vancouver. Is it Rogers Arena? Maybe I'm talking Rogers. See, I wanted to say Rogers Center, but I'm pretty sure. Why do you have so many arenas, Rogers? I guess you could be BMO and naming multiple MLS stadiums. I'm ranting. Let's move on into the last 5 games for the Edmonton Oilers, how they have been so effective, and how the outlook will look for the Edmonton Oilers over the next, not 5 games, not 10 games, but the next 14 games for the Edmonton Oilers. We will talk about that in just a second. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories in it? Trust me, I hear you. You gotta try Built Bar. We've just gotten through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier, but if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, have I got something for you. You gotta try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they are so delicious, you won't think they're good for you, but they are. Perfect for your New Year's resolution. And why are they so good? They are made with 100% real chocolate. Yes, real chocolate. And they have unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. I can't tell you how much I love that churro, by the way. I don't think I can legally say how much I love that churro. It is unbelievable. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars are like a candy bar, all while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better, they are healthy for you. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. All of that, great flavor, all good for you, all of that with Built Bar. Alrighty, moving on to the success of the Edmonton Oilers recently, which is pretty nice to say considering the stretch the Edmonton Oilers had recently as well. But the Edmonton Oilers over the last 5 games are 5-0, and they are that for a reason. Let me rip off some statistics for you. This is all from Bob Stauffer, by the way. I'm not original, don't worry. But these are very interesting stats to me. We'll talk about them in a second, and why they attribute to the Edmonton Oilers' success. Over the last 5 games, the Edmonton Oilers have had 27 goals for, which is an average of 5.4 goals per game. Their goals against is at 11, which is an average of 2.2 goals per game. Their power play is sitting at 26.7%, 4 out of 15 over the last 5 games for the Edmonton Oilers, which is pretty impressive considering how good the Edmonton Oilers power play is. The Edmonton Oilers can get that number higher. That can be even scarier for the Edmonton Oilers. And speaking of higher numbers on the special teams, the Edmonton Oilers penalty kill is 14 for their last 15 penalties. They are sitting at a 93.3% over the last 5 games. If the Edmonton Oilers penalty killing was an issue, I don't know if it is now. Now, it is a stretch of 5 games, so you can say what you will. It's a small sample size, but it's still, we'll get into why it's more important in a bit. But shots for over the last couple of games, 39.6, shots for per game, and shots against per game, 28.2. Under 30 shots per game in these last 5 games, over 35 shots per game for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, why are these numbers impressive? Well, Vinny Desharnais joined the Edmonton Oilers 5 games ago. The Edmonton Oilers started winning. Not saying, obviously, that he's the key to the Oilers' success, but is a dimension to it. The Edmonton Oilers are 3 games into Evander Kane's return, which has been fantastic. Well, the next game will be Evander Kane's 3rd game back. It's 2 games into his return. But now, after those 5 games, the standings sit like this. The Seattle Kraken are on top of the Pacific Division with 58 points, tied with the Vegas Golden Knights at 58 points. Then the Los Angeles Kings, who got shut out against the Dallas Stars last night, as you can tell, I'm even getting messages on how important these are. But 56 points for the Los Angeles Kings, as mentioned, who have been shut out last night against the Dallas Stars. Then the Edmonton Oilers with 55 points. The Calgary Flames, I almost said the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. The Calgary Flames sit behind the Oilers with 51 points. So all of a sudden, the Edmonton Oilers sit 3 points out from top spot in the Pacific Division. Now, Brett, don't get too far ahead of yourself. What are you talking about? What are you saying? That's fair. But the next 13 games for the Edmonton Oilers are all the most winnable games the Edmonton Oilers will play this season. Now, these are the upcoming games for the Edmonton Oilers. Vancouver Canucks, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Detroit Red Wings, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens, the Detroit Red Wings again, the New York Rangers, the Colorado Avalanche, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Columbus Blue Jackets again, and then their 14th game of all this, the Boston Bruins. Now, let me go over that list one more time and tell you where each of those teams stand in the standings in the entire league. The Vancouver Canucks are 27th. The Columbus Blue Jackets are 32nd. The Chicago Blackhawks are 31st. The Detroit Red Wings are 23rd. The Philadelphia Flyers are 24th. The Ottawa Senators are 25th. Montreal, 26th. Detroit, 23rd. The New York Rangers are 10th in the league, but have not been having a very good season. The Colorado Avalanche, 18th. Philadelphia Flyers, 24th. Pittsburgh Penguins, 15th. The Columbus Blue Jackets, 32nd. And the Boston Bruins, 1st in the NHL. Out of those 13 games, the Edmonton Oilers have a very... I'm not going to say the Edmonton Oilers are going to go and win all 13. That is very unfeasible. But out of a potential 26 points, it's also feasible the Edmonton Oilers might capture 22 of those points. Feasible. Realistic, maybe, but feasible, absolutely. That would mean, again, 22 points, adding to the already 55 points the Edmonton Oilers would have, would put them with 77 points. In theory. In theory. That would be A, so many more points than what they do now, but B, a nearly impossible run for teams like the Seattle Kraken, the Vegas Golden Knights, and Los Angeles Kings to try and keep pace at. Now, again, why is this important? I mentioned Evander Kane coming back for the Edmonton Oilers. Vinny Desharnais has really added a different dimension to the Edmonton Oilers' back end. But also through this stretch, the Edmonton Oilers have had 11 different forwards scoring goals. 11. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan McLeod, Zach Hyman, Derek Ryan, Warren Fogle, Matthias Janmark, Klim Kostin, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and yes, Jesse Puljujärvi. All while players like Evan Bouchard, Philip Broberg, Vinny Desharnais, all chipping in with assists here and there. Darnell Nurse. The Edmonton Oilers are fighting, which is a whole brand new thing recently for the Edmonton Oilers, especially considering all of the concussions and injuries that Zach Kassian had really tapered out, especially since last year. You're getting fights from Klim Kostin, Jesse Puljujarvi dropped the gloves, Darnell Nurse, Zach Hyman. Everybody on the Edmonton Oilers are buying in right now. You're getting fantastic goaltending from Jack Campbell down the stretch, and your backup goalie is an all-star. Vegas Golden Knights don't have firepower like the Edmonton Oilers. The Seattle Kraken sure as heck don't have the firepower that the Edmonton Oilers have. They're a good team, and keyword is team, but they haven't been there yet. They're a second-year team. The Los Angeles Kings are a young team and are very fragile right now. There is a very real possibility that by the end of All-Star break, I guess going into the All-Star break, because it's not like there's any games being played during the All-Star break, but there's a very real possibility that the Edmonton Oilers could be the number one team in the Pacific Division by the All-Star break. Heck, maybe not even just the Pacific Division, as the Edmonton Oilers have 55 points right now as we speak. But the number one team in the Western Conference, the Dallas Stars, have 61. Only 6 points above the Edmonton Oilers. The Jets, 59. The Wild have 54. We don't have to worry about them. So the Edmonton Oilers, again, only 6 points away from being the best team in the West. And with their current play, not only from the goaltending, from the defense, to the forwards, to the Connor McDavid, to Leon Draisaitl, the Edmonton Oilers could be the best team in the West, and they have a very real possibility of doing so. Am I drinking the Kool-Aid here? I don't know. You let me know in the comments down below. I've just seen a different dimension from this Edmonton Oilers team that I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm seeing it against really good teams. And what's also very important is that players like Philip Broberg, Evan Bouchard, Ryan McLeod, Dylan Holloway are all seeing what it takes to beat some of the best teams in the league. Not only some of the best teams in the league, but a dynasty in the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's important. So let's wrap up that conversation there. But let's be real, all of this has been for naught if it wasn't for the guy in between the pipes. We will talk about him in our Beast of the Week in just a second. But first, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college basketball to pro basketball to the NHL to the WHL to heck, even the Premier League, maybe even the Turkish Super League. Yeah. They go that extensive, not intensive. You don't want intensive. You want extensive. And that is exactly what you get at BetOnline. Plus, if you love sports podcasts, which if you're listening to this one, you probably do, you can find those at BetOnline as well. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where we are going to wrap up today is where we wrap up every week. And that is with the Beast of the Week. And this one needs no more introduction or teasing. This Beast of the Week has been the reason why the Edmonton Oilers have won so many games. Well, in the last 5 games for the Edmonton Oilers. And that is Jack Campbell. Where's all the haters now? Eating their words on a fresh silver platter. As Jack Campbell over the last, I'm not even going to include the last 5 games. I'm going to include the last 7 games. As Jack Campbell over the last 7 games, 6-1-0 through that time with a 2.28 goals against average and a .915 save percentage over the last 7. Now, over the last 5 games for Jack Campbell, against Anaheim, 21 saves on 23 shots at .913 save percentage. Against the San Jose Sharks, that lucky one slipped through. 25 saves on 26 shots, a .962 save percentage. Against the Vegas Golden Knights, an even .900 save percentage on 27 saves on 30 shots. A .935 save percentage against the Seattle Kraken, 29 saves on 31 shots, and a .903 save percentage last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 28 saves on 31 shots. Another fantastic outing for Jack Campbell against the Tampa Bay Lightning last night. And over the last 5 games, in the 141 shots fired towards him, 130 saves. Over the last 5 games, he has a save percentage of a .922. By the way, the Edmonton Oilers' other goaltender is going to the All-Star game. I don't know if you heard about that. Has one of the best save percentages in the Pacific Division, and the Edmonton Oilers get to pair that up with a goaltender who is on an absolute tear recently in Jack Campbell. Now, these stats are fantastic, but how do they apply to the game? Well, in games like last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning, Jack Campbell has done nothing but make the saves he needs to make. That is from the first game of the season. He has been able to make the saves that he needs to make. And yes, you may hear that and go, well, what about the puck that went through his glove? I'm talking about when you need a save from your goaltender to keep you in a game. To keep that lead, to preserve that lead, to keep the game tied so you can come down the other end and win that game. Jack Campbell has done all of those things and has become that goalie that is worth the 5x5. Yes, these are 5 games that you can talk about here, or 7 when you talk about the 6-1 record. But that's still a good 10th of the season. That's still a stretch where in the exact same stretch just 2 weeks ago, the sky was falling and the Edmonton Oilers were in the conversation for Connor Bedard. You can't have both sides. You can't. So Jack Campbell, the Beast of the Week, and hopefully next week you continue on so you can be the Beast of the Week. Next week, we are going to wrap it up there. As mentioned, the Edmonton Oilers face off against the Vancouver Canucks in Hockey Day in Canada tomorrow, 8 o'clock puck drop at Rogers Arena in Vancouver. Let's wrap it up there, folks. Thank goodness the Edmonton Oilers can win because we can head into the weekend playing La Bamba, baby.